I think it's fair to say that this new generation of young kids are not all right. But hey, at least they're outside, right? As, of course, my friend Tim Pool just made a very interesting argument about a major economic and social shift happening right now because there's no new young generation out there, as his warnings, I think, are absolutely important to look into in a very critical way, as of course I have some things that I disagree with him about, some things that I agree with him about, and then I'm going to take everything being discussed here, and then we're going to go further down the rabbit hole and talk about the ongoing eugenics depopulation agenda, which I have been warning about and screaming about and pulling my hair about for the last 20 years. And if you don't realize it's happening, you're probably already a victim of it and don't realize it. We're going to get in there nice and deep. And if you appreciate those type of endeavors down these type of rabbit holes, subscribe, click the notification button. We can't thank you enough for doing that. Because, of course, Tim Pool had this to say recently on his show.
We are in for a collapse by which most people can't recognize. Every year you will notice it more and more. There's going to be nobody to make your cheeseburger, bro. And a Gen Xer in their 50s, half of them own homes, they're not going to want to go work at a burger joint. So who's going to make the burger? A robot?
Yep, because that's a part of the plan of what's been going on here. If you read Zbigniew Brzezinski's kind of prophetic literature and books that he was putting out there as he was David Rockefeller's right-hand man who was engineering this kind of larger social, technocratic, live forever, advanced type of science fiction lore, you could see it as kind of a blueprint. And I think that's how I've personally seen it. And when we look at everything that's kind of happening here, it's important to understand here, yes, in my opinion, there is absolutely a depopulation agenda ongoing right now. It is prevalent. It is in our face, and there's no ignoring it. And the consequences of it will be very vast and severe for the vast majority of humanity, except for the people who control the means of production, which ever so will be getting into smaller and smaller hands. We're not talking about just big people with small hands. I'm talking about smaller and smaller amount of individuals that will have more power, more control over a vast majority of the things in our life, as of course we are creating superhumans that want to live forever and might have already gotten the tech already here, as we have this article here from tradersunion.com talking about Tim Pool warns of economic impact from generational shift. And yeah, that's one thing that's happening here. And when we look at the reproduction rates, when we look at the population levels, Western world civilizations down dramatically. Sub-Saharan Africa, booming. Oh, interesting how that's kind of happening here. As even population decline is happening in places like India, in China. All of the models, just like the climate change models that we were lectured on in the early 2000s about how, oh no, well, the water, the tides, they're going to come on in and we're going to flood all the cities. All those are wrong. But those same people were saying, no, the population is going to be too big. We got to stop it immediately. We got to do everything we can. Bill Gates came out like, we got to give people the procedure. Stop the population growth. Population growth has gone down very dramatically. And far more dramatically than a lot of people realize, especially after a lot of people were extorted to take one particular shot here. Huh? What a coincidence. What a coincidence there. Huh? Strange how, of course, that is happening here. Now, here I want to disagree with Tim a little bit about. He says, every year you will notice it more and more. There are less people, less workers, less businesses, less views, less sales. Yeah. And this is going to be rapidly accelerating the more we go on. Now, some people would argue it's going to be not really significant immediately. It's going to be like a frog kind of boiling, right? And eventually people are like, oh, wow, yeah, we're kind of boiling in here. Before they put us in the pot, I was screaming 20 years ago, hey, there's a pot here. They're going to light us. And they're like, shut up, conspiracy theorist, shut up. And I'm like, no. The people who listen to me and all the stuff that we we're telling you and warning you about and telling you not to do on lukeandfilter.com. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're very welcome. We were ahead of the curve there a little bit, especially with our video with David Icke, where me and him literally came out and said, oh, they're going to genetically engineer this type of sickness. Oh, they're going to lock you down. They're going to prevent you from traveling. They're going to reverse a procedure. And YouTube took that video down, by the way, because they said it violated COOF health policies. But the problem was, though, it was released before the COOF many years ago. It was released 9-10 years ago, right? Before the COOF was even around. How do we know? Well, again, I'm not here just to pat my own back here, but what Tim Pool is saying is absolutely 110% right here. That's one of the consequences. There's bigger consequences here. As he says, as boomers and silents die, there's no one to replace them in Gen Alpha. Yep, that's true. The death cliff is about 10 years away, where mortality of older boomers and silents will explode. Then it will get scary. I will argue it's already scary. No, Tim Pool also has a little bit of a biased view here, and I'll tell you why. Because I have, and this is where I disagree with him as far as like the kind of perception here. Before getting into that and talking about the eugenics operation, and we have a great clip from Catherine Austin Fitz that hopefully we get time to play. We wanted to tell you about lukeunfiltered.com. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you doing? We are organizing another range day in about a month from now. That's going to be super fun, super exciting. And it's one of the many perks. We do nature hikes, we do meetups, we do explorations of cities. Last time we did it in Gdańsk, Poland. People actually came out. We have followers in Gdańsk, Poland that are members of lukeunfiltered.com. It was awesome and great to meet them, super smart people, and it's awesome to have all of them be connected. We had some zapikankas, we had a nice walk, we ate some traditional food, and really, really great time. I can't recommend enough signing up to lukeunfiltered.com as a way. It's a way of building communities. With less and less people out there, you want to find your tribe. You want to find your group. You want to find the people that think like you do. And that's what we do here on lukeunfiltered.com. We have a Telegram chat. We have a forum. We have a members-only T-shirt store with very cheap, affordable T-shirts that are rare. 3 master classes, 13 plus years of videos centered around helping you fight essentially this eugenics operation and become the healthiest, most amazing, strongest version of yourself. Lukeunfiltered.com. Check your spam when you do log in. 20 cents a day. That's all it costs. Sign up right now. We need your help and support more than ever. Now, here's my little disagreement with Tim, because he's describing, and I remember, I think I saw one of his videos. He was like, I walk around, and like, no one's around. And his situation, viewing it, again, the situation is dire. He's not wrong for the situation being dire. But I think his situation is a little bit more exacerbated because of where he is. He's in West Virginia. There's not a lot of people in West Virginia. Even Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is this weird kind of Black Mirror type of environment where, by the way, more sociopaths around Washington, D.C. and in Washington, D.C. than anywhere else per capita in the world. Not a coincidence there. I remember living there, and during the weekends, even 10, 15 years ago, it was all desolate. It was all weird. It was like a ghost town on the weekends. I was like, unless, of course, there was a major protest. There was like one bar that like people would go to downtown. It wasn't even downtown. It was like by the Capitol. No, not by the Federal Reserve. And I was like, oh, yeah, there's some people there. Okay. But like, I remember living in D.C., and it was like a ghost town most of the weekends there, to the point where I was driving up to New York City as soon as I got out of work Friday, because there was like nothing no one to do. 15 years ago in Washington, D.C. It's like a very weird type of work city where there's like, it just feels weird in many instances for me personally, okay? They have that little Chinatown area, all right, that's sometimes a little bit busy, but then that's it. And then otherwise, it's kind of desolate. West Virginia, very desolate. And if you're getting your perception of like, oh man, everyone's going away, yeah, you would believe that, living in West Virginia and Washington, D.C. You come to Miami, and you sit in traffic a little bit, you're like, I could see why Bill Gates wants to eugenicize everyone. Now, not to undermine anything that Tim is saying, because Tim is absolutely 110% right. The only thing I would disagree with is that his kind of perception might be skewed based on where he lives. Because you go to other places, like New York City, Miami, and it's like, man, there's a whole bunch of people here. Now, Tim expands on his theory here, and overall, I think his warnings are something that are incredibly important to kind of pay attention to, because we are reaching a moment. We are reaching a time where there's no going back from this. Like, people think, oh, yeah, well, we're fine. I'll just lay back. I'll just chill out. I won't do anything. You don't understand. And this is the kind of like angst that I've been feeling, especially when it comes to AI, robotics, the technocratic digitization, and the facial recognition type of surveillance state that we're kind of all slowly walking towards to, as there's less and less people out there in this world. As I would argue, a lot of them have been deliberately called. Why are they doing this? I have a theory I'll tell you at the end of this particular video. But here's Tim extrapolating a little bit more on his kind of thesis here, which I think absolutely 110% he is right on.
Start entering this point in their life from about 75 and upwards, death starts rapidly increasing. It is an exponential growth curve. We call that the mortality cliff. These individuals are already retired, so we're not noticing it too much right now, because it's not like these people are working big jobs for the most part, but they are dying. And this means less customers, less viewers, less sales. People who are retired still need industry. But the mortality cliff means, I believe there's maybe around 60 million boomers left, 20 million silent, when within the next several years, you are going to start to notice your business isn't selling as much anymore. Your YouTube videos aren't getting the same amount of views anymore. And there are a combination of factors outside of the mortality cliff.
And this is where an interesting conversation happens with the dead internet theory and the kind of theory out there that a lot of kind of viewership, a lot of the economies, a lot of the kind of influencer type of lifestyles, they're all being subsidized by your kind of tax dollars and fake bots and fake individuals out there that are meant to prop up you being constantly online, a part of this kind of degrading, dehumanizing algorithm and online digitization lifestyle. As of course, it makes you acquiesce to the technocratic overlords a lot easier and quicker by doing that. That is my theory that I think also is potentially happening here.
That caused this. But I had put out a tweet because I was having a discussion with people, and I mentioned this. I said, guys, we're already noticing it. Now, there's dead internet theory, fears that USAID was propping up this false image. And I know it's conspiratorial, so I will only entertain the possibility while putting on the caveat, probably not.
Most conspiracies have been spoiler alerts. And this is, again, where me and Tim kind of disagree. I'm a bit more conspiracy-minded. He's a bit more. Let's take things for what they are as how we see them. I'm like, no, there's a rabbit hole. Oh no, it gets crazier.
I'll putting on the caveat, probably not. But I do believe there is a probability that USAID, maybe not as part of some grand conspiracy, but was creating a mirage of population through sock puppet accounts. Now, let me slow down. I am not saying that USAID was tasked with intentionally, as the people in the department, to make fake accounts and run these things. No, what I'm saying is USAID was sending large amounts of money to various countries, to various NGOs and special interests. Many of those interests wanted to create perception of popularity, creating a bubble. It is interesting to me.
This is why a lot of people are arguing that now Howard Stern, Jimmy Kimmel, and all these other, along with NPR, all these other kind of big left-wing kind of media institutions are all being canceled, all being having all of their contracts cut, because some people are saying, wait, there could have been potentially a USAID connection here that did support a lot of left-wing media causes, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. Even in Poland, they were supporting the left-wing political causes of the liberals there, as Poland made a significant shift over to the left. They were predominantly a very right-wing country Now I'm like, I love Poland. I want to move there. And they're like, wait, well, hold on there. Let's wait a minute. Let's see if it fully goes left.
And it very well may be a spurious correlation that when USAID crumbles, we begin to notice the rapid decline before our eyes.
Now, there's also a huge loss in viewership around this particular time. I would argue because people are outside. But then Tim says, no, people are not outside. I don't think they're outside in West Virginia, to be quite frank with you, because they're usually not outside in West Virginia or in Washington, D.C. Living in more of a kind of city environment, a lot of people are outside. We are in the midst of summer. And I think this type of because it's me, Jeremy, and I think Tim, seeing the views all go down. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? It's pretty bad. There's also a bot purge. I'm down 515 subscribers in this time period, which means I'm just going to be deboosted in the algorithm. So subscribe. It does help. It does mean a lot to me when you do that. But is what we're seeing now a summer lull, or is it indicative of what Tim is describing here?
Could it be that following the financial crisis, the rapid decline in reproduction that we saw is finally coming to a head some 18 years later? There are no young people to take jobs, resulting in people starting to notice. People aren't buying products anymore. The economy is slowing down. But what if not just USAID, but other systems were propping up social content to make people feel like the economy was growing digitally? And now that that system is shut down, not the only one, people are starting to notice, hey, what's going on? Across the board, people are noticing social media is on the decline. Now, some say it's just summer. This is not normal. It may be decentralization, an expansion of new content and new platforms across the board.
I think people are also realizing that, if you want to be a part of this new kind of economy, you got to be online. A lot more people are online. A lot more people are posting online. And therefore, you have this kind of effort where now even major institutions are all going online. And it's unavoidable, and therefore the kind of viewership they used to have is now more diversified. I think that's also what's going on here, as more and more people are trying to get hip to what's going on here, and there's different strategies of what works and what doesn't work, and it's pretty clear here we're all vying for everyone's attention, and we all expect to have the same kind of level of attention like we did before, and that attention's going down.
I don't think that explains everything. I think the reality is there is no new generation to replace us.
That's true, too. All of those things that we just mentioned could be true here as well. Now, there's a video posted of a Walmart worker talking about, she works 40 hours a week and she can't afford to live. There is a very big, huge generational gap. Now, the fact that there's going to be less people out there, and that we keep having more and more debt, and those young people are supposed to pay off the debt of all of the older generations that took advantage of it. I mean, the Federal Reserve banking system is one of the cruelest, evilest systems in the world here that has absolutely robbed the wealth from this country, leaving us in debt. Who's going to pay off that debt? The few amount of young people that are left? That's not going to happen here. And when economies stop growing and debt keeps increasing, which is going to happen, especially with less people, less businesses, less enterprise, less money, as the young people, again, you look at all the content out there, you look at all the movies, it's all trying to, of course, reach out to the older demographics. It used to be that there used to be new content, new stuff for the younger generations out there. There is no younger generation out there, as I would argue. And I would agree with what Catherine Austin Fitts was talking about, as she described how there was a great poisoning, and how ever since the U.S. government understood that it's going to be very expensive to pay out Social Security, to pay out retirements, to pay out Medicaid, Medicare for all these older generations that we kept promising it to, it might be better off to call them. And that's what a lot of people believe the COOF was all about. Now, I was going to give you my theory about what's going on here. Let me play a little bit of Catherine Austin Fitts, then I'll tell you my theory.
Well, look at the Great Poisoning. I mean, we have the U.S. government systematically poisoning and killing the population. The COVID pandemic was a mass atrocity.
Yep, and it was a deliberate one. And then she goes on and talks about how the government was looking at the budgets. They're like, oh, we can't afford this. Well, we got to figure out something. And then they're like, oh, yeah, look, Well, Dr. Fauci came out with this really great gene-specific biological warfare weapon. Huh. That specifically targets old people and fat people. It's like we want to get rid of waste from our society. How do we do that? That's what I believe is happening here. And it adds to my theory here. So I believe we're heading towards the singularity, and which, if we haven't already reached it, I believe we are reaching towards a place where artificial intelligence is smarter, greater, more powerful, and it is in the hands of a few individuals. I believe those few individuals want to live forever and have already probably developed the technology to live forever. Now, if you have that technology to live forever, a vast majority of people want that too. And you can't give it to everybody. That's what they're saying to themselves. And they're like, well, what do we do here? Well, if we want to live forever, people are going to get suspicious. Well, we got to take them out. So, of course, we have the full advantage, full power over them. And this is where I think the facial recognition, artificial intelligence type of surveillance tech that is being implemented and in play here, especially with drones and robotics here, as, of course, we're moving into a technocratic, dystopian, apocalyptic future where the rich will live forever. Everybody else will be the slave peasant class. And that's why you will live in a pod, eat the bugs, and have no privacy and love it more than ever. And yeah, that's that. On that note, thank you for signing up to lookunfiltered.com, where we hope to, of course, give you positive news, tips, tricks to elongate and make your life as best and as prosperous as possible. Otherwise, good luck in the Hunger Games that we are all living in. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more all here on youtube.com/wearechange.